Welcome back to A Bit of Curiosity. I'm your host, Jeremy Howlett. It's a beautiful day outside. It's wonderful to be with you. I hope that the content that we've shared thus far has been beneficial as this is now our 11th episode. Really excited to share some great things with you. We've had some wonderful guests. We've got a few more coming out soon. And I wanted to take a few moments to just appreciate you and just listening and being here. I've had some great experiences over the last week or so that have really affected me and changed me. I've been reading the book The One Thing by Gary Keller and his co-author Jay Papasan. I should know that. Um, and it's been really impactful on me and kind of the perspective. I think back to my past and the times that I've been most effective in getting things done is when I've been all in, when I've been fully focused on that thing, really on the one thing, right? 15 years ago when I came to Golden and I was also kind of in the mode of looking for something different in my life. I had been a financial advisor for a number of years. It had been okay for me, but it wasn't where my passion was at the time. And so I was looking for some change. And so as Golden and I were talking, I was really on this brink of, okay, I'm going to try something new. And when he showed me kind of the zeroed out shoe concept that later became Altra, it was almost a no-brainer to say, hey, let's go ahead, let's start a shoe company. Like, let's do this. And as crazy as that idea is to go against the likes of Saucony, Asics, Adidas, Nike, right? Like to create a new running shoe brand. Um, it was kind of this perfect storm. And I said, let's go and let's do it. And over the course of the next several months, between him, me, Brian, we leaned all in. We let go of the other pursuits that we had in our lives. We dropped a lot of things. We sacrificed some time with our families, and we built a brand that now has staying power because we chose to focus on the one thing. And that became a great blessing for us. That became a blessing to many people. It sacrificed a little bit of time with our families, but it became a blessing to our families as we also involved them in building this and growing, and we became closer as families and those things as well. But it all kind of hinged on this idea of, okay, we have this broad focus that we're going to go change the running shoe industry, right? We're going to help people run better. And we were laser focused. We were looking at what are the things that we can do to move this thing forward. And we knew what that was. We fully leaned in, right? And that one thing in my past has been a real powerful lesson to me. It's been a foundational cornerstone to who I am today because of doing that. And now, as I'm kind of in flux with some other things, I'm doing some creative things. I'm writing more. I've created this podcast. I'm working in real estate, doing some real estate investments, and really trying to, okay, what am I fully leaning into? What is that one thing? That's the next thing, whatever that is, right? And I've had some really cool experiences with individuals as I've been thinking about this myself and as I've been pondering over it. And especially in talking with Spencer Taggart around it. And he's been a big influence in directing me and counseling with me to help guide me through this. And certainly time in prayer and meditation have been axiomatic in that as well. But I had one moment, a couple weeks ago, where I had three really cool experiences. Um, One, I met up with a friend that I hadn't seen in a number of years, and we started talking and conversing about what he was up to, what his interests were, where he was at, and he was currently debating over a career shift. And so we had a discussion about it, and we were talking about it, and I asked him a couple key questions. I said, "Well, what do you enjoy? What do you want? Right? Like, what are you passionate about?" And he kind of stepped back. He's like, "I don't know. I guess I really haven't thought about what I want. Right? Like, I kind of want to get into this again. I've been in this industry for a while, but I don't know if I want to make the jump." Um, and so as we talked about it a little bit, I said, "Okay, well, what's the one thing that you can do that will make everything easier, right? Like, what is that? And he'd read the book and he's like, ah, those principles. Yeah, thanks for bringing those back to me. And we talked about some things that he could do to that would really get him excited again and get him passionate and really give him something to focus on, some bigger vision, bigger picture idea. And whether or not he executes on it or not, we'll see, right? But it was a great conversation, and it was influential to me because it was this experience of like, okay, like we all have these different lanes that we can choose. And we may be great in each of these different lanes. We may find success in these different lanes. But if we try to drive in all these lanes at the same time, we're going to struggle to truly be successful. And so we truly need to choose one lane and put our effort and our energy into that one lane. Later that day, I was talking with another friend, and we just jumped on a quick phone call, and I was connecting with him, and he was like, yeah, I'm kind of struggling right now. I said, well, why? Like, what's going on? And he's like, well, I've had a lot of design projects lined up, and unfortunately, they've all pushed back to next year. And so we were talking, and he loves design. He loves to do what he does in design, but what he's really passionate about is kind of some coaching, some men's wellness and guidance and some of those things. And so I asked him, I said, okay, well, you've got these other things that you've kind of been toying with and you've been playing with. Maybe this is God saying to you, hey, I need you to focus on this other thing because this is where your efforts need to go right now. So I'm going to push these back. I'm going to push these out of the way so that you have to focus on this one thing because this is where you really want to be. This is where you need to be. And it kind of hit him, right? Like he had this moment of, aha, wow, okay, that's intense. Like that's interesting, right? Like to him, it was this really deep moment of just realization. And I don't consider myself a coach or a guru or a guide by any means, right? Like, but I just shared a couple of principles that had stood out to me, things that I had been reading or learning, experiencing myself recently, and I shared them with him. And they affected him in the sense that like, okay, like, yeah, maybe this is time to go all in on this thing and at least give it the next 3 months and see what happens. And sometimes that can be a really scary thing, right? Like going all in is a terrifying thing. It was scary when we went all in with Altra because it was no paychecks, right? Like we had raised some money, but that money was going solely to production. That money was going solely to developing prototypes, to some marketing spend, right? Like none of that money was coming back to us as founders. And that was scary. There was a lot of sleepless nights filled with anxiety and frustration and fear and okay, when is this thing going to pay off? And I get it, right? But now that it's behind us, I don't regret it, right? Like those memories, those experiences, what we've done, we've changed an entire running industry. And I know that this individual, if he acts on this, will change a lot of lives for the better. Um, and I don't know his answers, right? Like I don't know what's right for him per se, but all I did was suggest that hey, maybe this is an opportunity to go all in. And it gave him the paradigm shift that he needed to say, okay, maybe that's the case. Maybe that's right. My own life, right? Like my own experiences, I've been kind of riding multiple lanes and I'm still probably hovering over too many lanes at the same time right now. I'm eh, I love to climb mountains. Maybe not as much now as I used to in the past, right? But I had a year where I summited many peaks over 10,000 feet. And well, the fact is, I could only summit one peak at a time, right? Like, I can't straddle three different trails. I can get to a fork in the road. I can get to three different trails that lead to three different peaks. I know where to go for that, right? But I can't go summit all three peaks at the same time. I have to focus on one, and then I can go do the next, and then I can do the next. but I can't do all of them at the same time. And sometimes in my life, I hit these challenges that, like, okay, maybe I'm trying to do too many things at once. And that becomes problematic for me because I get excited about a lot of stuff. And so I need to focus. And I think each of us can do a little bit better if we focus, if we find what is that one thing, what is that thing that I want, right? Like, what is that thing that I truly excites me and gets me energized? Like, it unlocks my inner self. It helps me fight through the fear, the anxiety, the frustration. I just bought my first investment home 2 weeks ago, and that's a scary moment. Because it needs a lot of repairs, it needs a lot of work, right? Like, we got to put a lot of time into it, and that's what we're doing right now. That's what I'm spending. That's where I've committed most of my time. I'm taking a break from it right now because there's not a lot I can do today. So I've had some time to record this podcast episode, but it's a lot of work. Takes a lot of energy, and I need to focus on it heavily to make it successful. And so each day as I wake up, I think about, okay, what is the one thing that I can do so that we can get this home ready to sell within the next 6 weeks, and that is going to make everything else easier. And so I look at that, and I ponder on that each morning, and I try to figure out, okay, what's the one thing I need to do today? And then I try to get that thing out of the way as early as possible. And as I do that, other things start to line up, and the rest of the dominoes fall, and we're on schedule. We're mapped out well. Things are going, things are moving, and I'm grateful for the experience. I'm grateful for all that I'm learning here. And this wouldn't have happened if I didn't lean all in fully and give myself fully to this and choose this lane. And I wouldn't have chosen this lane completely at this moment if it wasn't for time in prayer and meditation. And I'm grateful for conversations with God to help me. I think there's a lot of power with connecting to the divine or to the universe or to nature, whatever that is for us, right? Like, for me, it's through prayer with God and through meditation, through finding times and moments to be still, to listen to my inner self, to listen to his voice. Um, but each of us can find that. And as we ponder over, okay, what is it that I truly want? It's a hard question sometimes. Because there's a lot of times where it's like, well, I want this and I want that. Is that what we want, or is that what the world tells us that we want? Is that what society tells us that we want? And by figuring out what we truly want, we can then lean into that desire, and we can call upon the powers of the universe, call upon just those actions, right? The secret, right? Like, whatever that is, put it out there, speak it into being, and then go forth, and the things will fall into place as we commit to it and as we lean in. And I'm grateful. I think that there's important value in leaning in and focusing on the one thing. Multitasking just makes us ineffective at everything. By focusing on one thing, we become better, we excel, we become exceptional. And that's where true success comes from, by learning to counterbalance between our lives, our business, our families, our spirituality, the things that are most important to us. We can't do all of them at the same time. I can't be present with my family while I'm performing exceptionally at work. Not at the same time, right? I can perform exceptionally at work, and then I can come home and be present with my family. But there needs to be this counterbalancing between them. And as we learn to counterbalance, and as we learn to focus on the one thing, we can unlock greatness within ourselves. I firmly believe that. And I hope that's beneficial to you today. Go find your one thing, discover what it is you want, and then step forward and make it happen. Make the time for it and put forth the effort, and you will find success. You'll unlock your real true self behind, and you'll have purpose in what you're doing. And there's power in that. So thank you very much. Again, this is a bit of curiosity. I'm your host, Jeremy Howlett. Find me on Substack, Apple Podcasts, wherever, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Please like us, share us, rate it. I'd love you to share this out with somebody that you think this could benefit. So thanks for joining today.